Hey y'all, TRG here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the potential for a tropical storm to impact portions of the Lesser Antilles that may form into a potential hurricane, as well as a second system that is located just to the east of the Yucatan Peninsula that could bring some light to moderate rainfall over portions of northern Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula. Let's go right into today's video. So here's the current National Hurricane Center outlook as of the 2 p.m. advisory, and we do have a 40% chance for a tropical depression or storm to form in the Lesser Antilles, as well as a 20% chance for a tropical depression or storm to form back towards the Yucatan Peninsula. This is just going to bring some isolated 3-inch rainfall totals for portions of the Yucatan Peninsula into northern Mexico. Shouldn't be much of a ordeal for that to form. I'm not expecting much out of that other than an isolated flash flooding risk. And this system here, that does have the potential to become a tropical storm, and with the newer guidance, potentially even a low-wind Category 1 hurricane as it moves into portions of the southern Lesser Antilles, and then eventually it's going to head somewhere in the Caribbean. We do have a lot of uncertainty past the 70 point here, so we'll just keep an eye out on the model runs to see if this system just might head towards the U.S. or if it's going to go out to sea. I also want to briefly note that the National Hurricane Center has probably increased the percentage of this forming as you're watching this video around 8 o'clock Eastern time. So note that this is probably up to about a 50% chance of formation on that new advisory. So here's our blend of Ensemble models, and you can see 95L out there on the right bottom portion of your screen. A lot of actually certainty on this system moving out to the west towards the southern Lesser Antilles, and it will most likely become a tropical storm, maybe even a low-wind hurricane as it impacts portions of the southern Lesser Antilles into the Trinidad and Tobago area. Once this goes into the Caribbean, there's a lot of uncertainty amongst the model runs. Some model runs take this going back up towards the Bahamas. Other models take it going into the southern portion of the Caribbean and then dissipating south of the Yucatan Peninsula. And then a few more models actually take this towards the Yucatan Peninsula and potentially even redeveloping in the southwest portion of the Gulf of Mexico, like the newer 18Z GFS model run. And a couple, but not a lot, mainly the European ensembles, also take this system potentially heading up into the southern portion of the Gulf states. I don't see that being a very real possibility. I feel like the most possible scenario here is this system heading towards the Yucatan Peninsula and then the southwest portion of the Gulf. But anybody in this area here, you do want to be monitoring the potential for a tropical storm as we go into the latter half of June into early July. Now, if you back out towards the Lesser Antilles, we are anticipating the potential for tropical storm impacts as we go towards the latter half of June, around June 29th, 30th, and maybe even into July 1st. At this point, they don't have any type of tropical storm warnings or watches out, so we're just kind of keeping an eye on it. But every single model run I have seen has this being a tropical storm or a low-wind hurricane. So in my opinion, I would start preparations for a potential tropical storm now, just in case we do end up seeing one. Before we continue on with the rest of today's video, I ask that you guys please go ahead and hit that like button, and as well as share this video with your family, friends, and on social media to help spread weather awareness. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all so you know when I go live or upload a video. Let's go right back on into today's video. So here's the deterministic GFS model run, and we're going to pull this all the way out to where you can see 95L. So this is June 30th, and according to the GFS model, this might already be a tropical storm as it approaches portions of the Lesser Antilles. So we'll be keeping a very, very close eye on that. And the newer one actually shows this being a hurricane, maybe even a Category 2 hurricane as it goes over the southern Lesser Antilles. So you guys need to be very weather aware out there. I do believe the GFS is overdoing the intensity of this storm for the Lesser Antilles, but you do want to keep an eye on it. There is a chance this forms into a hurricane, but at the moment, I'm more leaning towards a tropical storm out of this system. And then the GFS, for some reason, has a second system, which is currently located in portions of Africa, moving off of Africa into the main development region as we go into tomorrow, and then eventually into July 2nd or 3rd, being another tropical storm for the Lesser Antilles. Personally, I don't believe that's going to be much of an issue. However, we do want to monitor it just in case this stays on the models, and we'll definitely keep an eye on the National Hurricane Center as they may end up highlighting that as well. So we'll keep a very close eye on that. Now, the rest of the GFS model run here, this is a lot of uncertainty, like I've said before. This particular model run does keep our first Invest 95L in the Caribbean, most likely as a low-wind tropical storm or a tropical depression, and somehow, some way, the GFS model wants this to rapidly intensify into a possible major hurricane as it hits portions of Mexico. Now, keep in mind, this is very far out. We are 270 hours out on the GFS model run, so that is extremely inaccurate. Dealing with hurricanes, I really don't take anything seriously beyond 140 hours out, right around that point. So this is 138 hours out, and like I said, that's where uncertainty starts to really increase as we go towards portions of the Eastern Caribbean, south of Cuba, southwest of Puerto Rico. That's where we have a lot of uncertainty on where this system's going to go, so we need to pay very close attention to it for the potential of this to possibly swing into the United States. But I mean, this is going to impact land regardless. It's going into the Caribbean, and there's no way it doesn't. It's just a matter of, will this hit, Cuba? Will it go towards south of the Yucatan Peninsula? Will it hit the Yucatan Peninsula? Once a system goes into the Caribbean, there's really no way for it not to hit land. So here is the European ensembles. Let me just go ahead and pull this out for you. That is 95L, again, at the bottom right portion of your screen. And currently, as we go into June 30th, most of the European ensembles have this becoming a tropical storm to a possible hurricane. Now, you'll see a few of these go into orange. Once you hit that orange range, that's actually pushing borderline category 2 on the European, and even a few reds show up. So somehow the European model wants this to potentially be a major hurricane as it goes into the Lesser Antilles. Personally, I don't see that being a possibility. We don't want to get, too over top with this system. So at the moment, I'm just calling for a tropical storm. Some of the European ensembles want a Cat 3 and then eventually get into Cat 4. You can see those dark reds. Dark reds are going into that category 4 range as we're going into July 2nd on the European ensembles. And then even 1 to 2 of them have this being a Cat 5, which I don't think I've ever seen the European ensembles this aggressive before, so that is really crazy, and a lot of them are aggressive. It's not like just 1 or 2 show a Category 2 or a Category 3 hurricane. Most of these show a hurricane, or at minimum a tropical storm, making landfall on portions of the southern Lesser Antilles, and then moving into the Gulf. Now, we can't go out any further than this. If you go out any further than 192 hours out, that's just complete fantasy land. Like I said, I really don't like to look more than about 140 hours out. This is 138 hours out. So we're pretty much locking in the potential for a tropical storm, at minimum a tropical storm for portions of the Lesser Antilles. After that, there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm sure you've already seen a couple videos out there on YouTube if you're really active in the weather community. I've already seen some myself that are calling for the potential of a hurricane out of this. That's not too far-fetched. Hopefully nobody's calling for a major hurricane out of this. Now, we do have the intensity guidance from Tropical Tidbits. I'll show you guys that right now. And that actually does show a major hurricane forming. You can see a few of these models have it high end Cat 2, low end, and even mid-tier Category 3. Again, I think these are really overdoing it. A lot of these models are showing Category 3. So unless the National Hurricane Center is forecasting a major hurricane, I am not calling for a major hurricane out of this. Like I said, probably a tropical storm, maybe a low-end Category 1 hurricane as it goes into the Lesser Antilles. After that, it's just, you're really guessing after that point. After the Lesser Antilles, you're really just guessing on the forecast. So we'll just keep an eye on it. And like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty, but you want to remain weather aware and keeping an eye on this, especially if you live on the Gulf states of the U.S., but more importantly, the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, as well as Jamaica need to keep an eye on this for potential impacts later down the line. But at the moment, currently, southern Lesser Antilles is where we're anticipating this system to hit. Again, after that, a lot of uncertainty. So here's our current look at the Eastern Atlantic provided by tropicaltidbits.com. You can see Invest 95L generally right out in that vicinity. It's this big mess of convection on the the bottom center portion of your screen. And then we also have our other system that we're keeping an eye on back here, which is just, again, a big mess of convection out there moving off the coastline of Africa. So we'll keep an eye on both of these. Both of these are currently anticipated to head towards the Caribbean. So again, we should have land impacts from both of these systems. The first one looks like a big ordeal for now. The second one doesn't look that crazy, but definitely keeping an eye on that second one just in case we may see the National Hurricane Center highlight probabilities on that. So again, the more concerning system is currently 95L, and then we have our other system, which is not an Invest. It's not even an AOI just yet, but we do want to watch it just in case something does manage to spin up out of it. So keep a very close eye on that, again, just in case. There's not much stopping this system from forming before the Caribbean, but there's this little pocket of wind shear towards Jamaica, south of Cuba, and that's what's going to be our main factor in this, in my opinion. That's going to be, will this system become a hurricane as it goes towards Jamaica, or where will this go? What will this pocket of wind shear do? I think that's going to be our main question mark in this entire forecast, is how will that pocket of wind shear impact this system 95L, which, if that wind shear is pretty strong, it's probably going to try to punch through that wind shear, weaken a lot into, if it's as strong as the GFS is currently saying here, it would probably weaken into a tropical depression. And then after it leaves that pocket of wind shear, which for some reason there's a bit of a data hole right there. Look at that. We've got a bit of a glitch on our model run, 18Z GFS. But again, look at that. Look at that. So we go from a 976 hurricane, category 2 possibly, and after that leaves the pocket of wind shear, it's already been destroyed to down to a 1,000 millibar tropical system, maybe not even a tropical storm, probably just a depression at that point. And then you can see it's left that pocket of wind shear, so it begins to intensify towards the Yucatan Peninsula and then makes landfall, weakens, and then from there on out, it's into the untapped environment of the western Gulf of Mexico. And that's why 246 hours out, the GFS decides, I'm going to just make this thing rapidly intensify into major hurricane. So I think the GFS is a bit of a realistic scenario. However, there's a lot of uncertainties that could flip this forecast completely inside out. So you just want to keep a very close eye on it. Again, the most likely area of impacts is the southern Lesser Antilles, Trinidad and Tobago. After that, again, after south of Cuba, it's just a lot of uncertainty thanks to that pocket of wind shear. All right, to close this out, just for a bit of a wrap up, we've got a 40% chance, if not by the time you're watching this video, a higher chance than that, of a tropical depression to a tropical storm impacting portions of the southern Lesser Antilles after the end of that 7-day period. Beyond this orange point you see here, a lot of uncertainty will develop because of that pocket of wind shear I just showed a minute ago. Another AOI is currently located south of Jamaica and is anticipated to hit portions of the Yucatan Peninsula into portions of east-northeastern Mexico. That shouldn't cause much of an issue. The most highest concern with that will be isolated flash flooding upwards of 3 inches. And we are still watching, again, the potential for a tropical wave off of your screen. It's not highlighted by the National Hurricane Center out there off the coastline of Africa. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for watching till the end. If you are watching this, it's greatly, greatly appreciated that you've watched it throughout the whole portion of the video. And hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Watch severe weather in the tropics. Goodbye.